Welcome to St. Augustine this evening, the Mike Davis Show. And boy, do we have a show here for you today. It's a really, really big show about a lot of stuff, and you're going to love every bit of it. Before we get to all of that and all of our very, 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 very special guests, we got to make some money because I got to pay rent to Pete Melfi. And if I don't pay rent to Pete Melfi, the Florida Man games will be subpar. And we cannot have a subpar Florida Man games.
That's a lie.
All right. So our very first and great sponsor, and I believe they're sponsoring the Florida Man games too. Don't want to put any pressure on them. But Bozard Ford Lincoln in St. Augustine, their goal is to make sure your time
stress on your base.
We didn't know what was coming.
I love tormenting these two. Bozard's, they want you to oh man, I got to read this again. Dang it. Bozard Ford Lincoln in St. Augustine, their goal is to make sure your time and experience buying a new or used car is stress-free, fun, and enjoyable. Bozard is a family-owned Ford dealership that has been serving St. Augustine and St. Johns County since 1949. Who knew they had cars back then? Bozard Ford Lincoln has been the recipient of numerous dealer awards, including being ranked the #1 automotive dealership in the nation by Dealer Rater. Bo, Letty, and their staff are amazing. You can go out there and see them in person, or you can go online to bozardford.com. When you go out there, and only will I say it correctly today, the Jiffy Burger is an amazing hamburger. When the principal's in the room, you have to behave.
Panderer.
I will pander.
Open pandering. Opening their doors in 2008, Brightway Insurance, the Casey agency, has proudly stood by their customers through hurricanes, major floods, hail, and fires. Through these events, the agency has become a much-needed insurance resource in times of trouble and hardship. Honesty and integrity are the pillars of our core values, says owner Ashley Casey. They pride themselves on being insurance experts while developing strategies that help their clients meet their needs. They truly enjoy the relationships they've forged with you, and everyone in the office has a real love for St. Augustine. I wonder if they're sponsoring the Florida Man games. The team at South State Bank, they're a group of bankers you can count on. Their approach is to building long-term relationships with their customers is the best in the business. If you're looking for a banking relationship you can depend on, check out South State Bank. They've got 3 locations to serve you in St. Augustine: State Road 312, State Road 16, or the beach. You can also visit them on their website, southstatebank.com. They are a member FDIC.
And Land Title of America, whether you realize it or not, when you refinance the sale or purchase of a home, there is a title company involved. Don't get stuck with some out-of-town title company who doesn't give a crap when you're faced with challenges. Stay local and choose Land Title of America. Just call or text Stephen Collins, 904-501-4481. He specializes in all types of real estate transactions. Land Title, your local title company, insuring America's land one title at a time because
they give a crap.
Can't sometimes get the extras to perform.
That's true.
We're going to have to start paying him more than peanuts.
Yeah.
All right.
It wasn't on the teleprompter.
We were not prompted for this.
All right. We have Troy Blevins joining me in an old throwback show. And then the throwback of all throwbacks is Pete Melfi is here joining us as well. You were here for the first show.
Very first show.
Yes,
first
I was.
Uncommon.
Yes. You guys bring this up every time I'm on this show with you.
Well, it's because we're very nostalgic.
We are.
Yeah.
People our age like to look back at things.
Okay.
When you get here, you'll look back too. One day you'll just be sitting there randomly in a show and you go, I remember that first show I did with Troy and Mike. And everyone's going, why do you bring that up all the time?
Yeah.
We've got black and white photos of that day. It's
It would be
great.
uncommon for
I
them
can't
to
remember.
not mention it.
That's right. That's right.
Marconi was on the telegram in case we had problems.
I can't remember if Pete actually had hair then.
He did.
No, I did not.
Beautiful set. Yes.
It was 11 years ago.
Yes.
You'd already shaved.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know
The
I
hair
didn't.
started creeping away in the early 20s.
Yeah. I know I did not have hair. So
No.
I'd already shaved it at that point.
I'm still
And
good.
yours was darker.
I'm still hanging in there, baby.
So your haircut's the only one that's changed, and it's because of the color.
Still hanging in there. As a tradition, we have not pissed off all of the candidates since 2 years ago when we did our predictions.
Yeah, give us 60 minutes.
So you guys hang in there, and by the end of this show, we should have met our objective. No, actually, before we get started, we want to thank everybody who ran. It is an incredibly difficult thing to do. You put yourself out there, you get a lot of criticism. You got to raise money. You got to put signs out. There's a whole lot of work involved in this. So our comments today have to do with what we think the outcome will be. It's not an indication of whether or not we think people are good or bad people, unless we say that. We might. I mean, you don't know, but we think that, this is just kind of us reading the races and making comments on them, and then we'll come back with answers on Wednesday and let you know. We'll do a regular show tomorrow night. You can't let Davey, not come in 2 weeks in a row. He was going to cry. He was. We had to let Davey come in. And so Davey's coming in, and then this group will be back together tomorrow night at about 7 o'clock, 7:15. We'll go live. We'll do the nostalgic Al Brennan, Pappy Schilling read of the information that comes out.
Were they the ones that started that in St. Johns County?
Pappy Schilling did it when I was a kid, but then Al Brennan obviously chimed in on it. And Al was the only local news guy for the longest time. He had the greatest pregnant pause of all time. He did.
I'm just going to hold my comments. I'm just going to hold my comments. What are you throwing at me, Mike?
In this case, it's
the
Brandon
stack
Biden.
of...
So, listen, part of the reason I feel like I'm justified is because this is the stack of mail that I receive from the people that are running. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to send me this much stuff, I feel like I'm entitled to comment. Mm-hmm. If I got this many mailers in my mailbox...
I just want to see what it weighs here.
It's not
as bad as I thought it was going to be.
No, it's not bad. They're using lighter weight paper this year. Yeah. It's not full stock paper.
It's the economy.
Cheap.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Cheap passes.
But no, and
it's only 110. It's not 165.
Some of them were good. I thought some of them were ridiculous. It did make me wonder halfway through the political season, what's it like in San Francisco? Like, does every mailer show up? Pete Melfi's a conservative. He's been a Democrat and a communist member since his life, but he likes Donald Trump. And then there's a picture of the liberal with Donald Trump, right? You have to think they're just taking everything and flipping it upside down on the other side of the country. So I really would love to see a mailer from San Francisco where every liberal is pictured with Donald Trump.
Well, I'm sure you could just walk down any street there and pick one up off the ground. There's trash everywhere. Trash everywhere out there.
But I'm afraid to, because I'm afraid what's on it. Just honestly.
Yeah.
It becomes a blanket for the homeless. What are you talking about?
All right. General comments. Has this been more brutal, less brutal than previous elections?
I think it's definitely been more brutal at the local level. Mm-hmm. You and I both love history. So we could go back the presidential side. It's just now starting to really crank up.
Yes.
And I would say at that level, it hasn't been as brutal as I anticipated. But I think it's going to get
That's
real.
because one guy quit. Mm-hmm. Well, wait a minute. One guy was removed undemocratically.
Yeah. We don't know.
One guy was removed undemocratically.
Okay. I don't know if that's true or not. Neither do you.
Is the person that got nominated, did they get a single vote?
No, he did not.
Did she get a single vote?
He did. She did not.
Okay. So that's an undemocratic way to do a primary.
Well, then we got to discount George Washington then.
I love George. Don't you pick on George?
Well, then you got. That's what I'm saying. You're a student of history. You know how many votes he got from the general public.
That's a false equivalency. That was.
Oh, she's chirping over here.
She's not wrong. She's not wrong. She's not wrong.
There. So the rules were that the president was not voted in by a general election, and then the electors at that point. Now the rules state that you have a primary that selects your nomination through the convention. Yeah, in the elections, yes,
I think that sounds like a Republican just jumping in over here.
No,
because that's not the way. Okay,
you're wrong.
Is that a red herring?
Tell me if it's
there was a false equivalency. Did we get a red herring too?
Tell me if that's
straw
a
man
federal
straw man. Yeah, straw man.
Yeah. So, I mean, you guys are discounting George Washington. That's how you guys want to be. Go ahead. I'm not going to jump on that bandwagon.
When do you start on CNN?
No, I mean,
MSNBC won't take you yet?
Are you saying he you don't think she's the candidate?
She means the beard.
You don't think she's the candidate that they would have chose if he wasn't in?
No. She was the least popular candidate in 2020.
I know you.
Like there was literally no one less popular.
In 2020, I agree, but it's 2024. It's 4 years after.
She hasn't done anything
the
though.
Least popular vice president in history.
In Troy's defense,
until 2.5 weeks ago.
In Troy's defense, he did just get back from Fantasyland.
Yeah,
Legoland. Yeah,
Legoland.
Stepped on one too many Legos out there.
Yeah. All right. I do think the Democratic national convention is going to be interesting.
Yeah.
There's a lot of protesters lined up. It's one of the first conventions that a block and a half away, they're advertising you can get a free abortion and a free vasectomy.
Right. I've heard some people have already taken them up on the free
On both.
vasectomy.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, just saying. You never know.
Okay. I mean,
is
statistically,
2024.
probably they have. Probably. Statistically.
The upper knee surgery.
No, it's the only convention I know where that's been a thing. I read an article on it this morning, and I'm like, that's novel. I mean, yeah, I'm going to the Democratic convention. Well, let me go and get one of those while I'm here, right? I mean,
that's what you attach yourself to. That's what you take from the Democratic convention.
I'm just saying.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Also, you get what you pay for, right? I mean,
I think it's still the best advertisement, hands down, right off 95 before you go to I-4.
Go home, we're full.
No.
It didn't work, by the way.
It's a vasectomy doctor, and his name is Dr. Schnipper.
Right, yeah.
So it's on a big billboard right there in Daytona.
Yes.
I don't know if I'm going to go to Schnipper for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't snip in the wrong spot.
I mean, he was kind of born to do that job, though, wasn't he? I mean, you just kind of got to think.
He changed his name to do that.
So in his case, it was more DNA in his name than it was his environment that led him that way.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Just kind of check. So, Pete, you've covered a lot of this stuff. You're the expert on it. You do shows 5 days a week. We're only 4. What do you think about this election cycle so far?
Oh, this is the most brutal thing I've ever seen in St. Johns County, hands down. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Vicious.
There's never been anything like this in St. Johns County. It really feels like the air of a national election. And a lot of people don't like that. I think it's rubbing a lot of people the wrong way. And I know campaign people will say the negative stuff works, but I just think your voter is smarter than they were 5-10 years ago. I just really do. I think they see that stuff and they almost feel the urge to vote the opposite way that they're being told to vote.
Well, I think 1 or 2 negative ads maybe sways, but I mean, Lord help me, Tom Leake has been absolutely crushed.
I think Tom Leake's going to win just because he's got the most name recognition out of anybody. Yeah. I mean, out of anybody.
I will save my commentary for that one, but I think that's one where the negative ads are going to backfire.
Yeah.
And I think there's a couple other races where some negative ads could definitely backfire.
I agree.
So I do think people are kind of fed up with it. And I think it's kind of like, hey, I don't want to see that. Tell me why you're running and tell me what you're going to fix, as opposed to telling me the other guy's worse than dirt. And we'll go from there. So, yeah. And right now, I mean, when I say that in St. Johns County, you got to give them credit. They did pivot quickly, right? And get rid of the pictures of Biden on the mailers early on. And then Kamala became the...
Oh, did they? I don't get the mailers like you get the mailers.
Here, take a look.
No, thank you. No, I don't want the mailers.
And you were talking about San Francisco. Do you think they have a super voter list in San Francisco for Republicans?
I think I have a super...
I think that would be a dangerous list to be on.
Why?
If you're a Republican in San Francisco.
No, I just meant everyone running as a Democrat, and they have to almost all be Democrats. They would reverse all these ads. So you'd see pictures of Trump and J.D. Vance and all these evil Republicans next to somebody who has basically been a communist their whole life and being accused of being a Trump lover.
Yeah, but you and I get these because we're on that super voter list. Mm-hmm. All right. In San Francisco, I don't know if I'd want my name on that super voter list, because everyone can go there and download and get the... I mean, when you ran, you were able to get that list and know which door to knock on and stuff. Do you think in San Francisco... They're almost like an endangered species?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. I don't think I would want my name as a Republican showing on the ticket. I mean, when I go to a restaurant, people are going to go, oh, he's one of those.
When I think of Republicans in San Francisco, I think of the Alamo.
Yeah.
I think of Thermopylae. I think of battles that there were so few people and they got completely over.
I never got good at playing Thermopylae.
Really?
I never got hotels.
No, I never did. I never knew what that process was.
Awesome. I love doing shows with you guys. All right, Amanda, any comments?
Not right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to start at the top. We're going to work our way through. Once again, this is just our kind of interpretation of where we think these races go. If you're one of the candidates, it's nothing personal. It's just, hey, this is what we think. We could be 100% right, or we could be 100% wrong.
This is not who we're supporting. We might talk about that if we are supporting somebody, but this is how we feel it's going to shape out.
Yes.
So,
all All right, so let's do a layup first. United States Senator, you got John Columbus, great family. Keith Gross, Rick Scott,
Not so good.
and Stanley Campbell.
That's probably the most politically incorrect thing you're going to say tonight.
So did discover a new world.
Yeah,
it's a wrong world, but he did discover it.
Yeah, but he destroyed the one he went to.
So
Rick Scott.
Okay.
Yeah, Rick Scott.
Amanda?
Rick Scott.
Yeah, I think just for the name recognition, Rick Scott. He's the only name on this list that I recognize.
Yeah, I can't see him not right. And I think Rick Scott has done a really good job. I think he's getting better at being a politician. When he first ran for governor, I can remember some of his interviews on Fox, and I felt bad for him. I mean, it was layup questions from Fox News, and he really. But if you've met him individually, completely at ease, but he just. And I think he's gotten a lot better with the press over the years, the 8 years in office as governor.
What was the woman he ran against when he ran for governor? And she messed up. She would have won that. She probably would have won the governor. And I can't think of her name. But during the debate, she actually looked at her cell phone, and that was like one of the rules. And then they just piled on her like, oh, she cheated during the debate. And they just crushed her. And he nudged out of that election. I can't remember what her name was.
She was out of Tampa St. Pete. Oh, man. She's really nice. Her husband ran, too, I think, for governor later.
But when he ran that, all the talk about, like, hate.
I can see her face. Short hair.
I know.
Short-haired lady. Yes.
She actually came to our Rotary at one point.
Nice person.
But Rick Scott, talk about, like, mean campaigns. His first campaign as governor, remember, they just kept showing, I plead the fifth, with his medical stuff that he had, where he actually made his money. But that was just pounded in your head about, like, how can you support him at this point? But he's done a good job as governor. He's done a good job as senator.
And I see Blake Blevins in the comments. Blake, next time I wave at you on the street, you could wave back. I got completely dissed by Blake today.
Yeah, Blake, did you realize that Mike was the guy in the hat? Mike wears a ball cap. No one knows it's him.
It's your Clark Kent disguise. It's his glasses. I'd
rather say it's the Captain America in Civil War, because all he had on was a cap, and he's in Germany, a place that has facial recognition at every street corner and coffee shop, and no one recognized him. So, yeah. But yes, Clark Kent is another good reference. It's a DC reference.
Okay, I don't pay attention to which one's which. I just Marvel, DC, they're all dumb.
Having just left Deadpool and Wolverine yesterday, I kind of more of a Marvel guy. So. All right.
Dance with the girl that brought you.
Yes. All right. Representative for Congress, Mara Macy versus John Rutherford, Jay McGovern.
We're not picking the Democrat?
Well, we could do the Democrat. I have no clue.
He's already in the...
Well,
I'm going to say Jay McGovern is going to move forward in the general election on the Democrat side.
Yes, Jay. Well, I'm sorry, Jay. So now there's a Democrat for U.S. Senate. Blake gave us a pick. He said Debbie Mercutio Powell.
Okay.
I got no clue. It's Blake. He knows everything. Where is Fern Park, Florida? I mean, Miami, I'll give you that one.
It's got to be down near Cape Canaveral. Look at the 321.
So let's pick a sacrificial lamb.
The 321 is Cape Canaveral area code.
Who will be the sacrificial lamb in the Senate race for the Democrats?
I think it's going to be Debbie also.
All right.
At least she was smart enough to come up with her own email.
Okay. Boy, it is cool when you look at that. Huh?
I'm going to go with Blake.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to go with Blake too on that. Pete?
Sure. I mean, she has a hyphenated last name. I think she'll get votes for having a hyphenated last name. I mean, I do. I do.
That's two families that are voting for.
I do got to give Troy. It is. She's got it's Debbie for Florida. Yeah. She actually invested in an email. Yeah. So, I mean, she didn't work at that.
That's good.
Okay. All right. A representative for Congress, Mara Macy, John Rutherford, are the Republicans running. Amanda, you got to pick in that.
I'm going to say John Rutherford.
Yeah. I'm sticking with Rutherford also.
Yeah, I think that one's another easy one.
Yeah, I don't see that one. That's going to be my canary in the coal mine for this election cycle. If you see that race close, which I don't think that race will be close, John Rutherford's got great name recognition, and most of his district is in Jacksonville. If you see that race close, then I wouldn't want to be any incumbent down ballot from here.
Well, also, all of Mara Macy's mailers, all of her logo makes her name hard to recognize.
Right, with the R in
because
parentheses.
she's trying to make sure you know she's a Republican.
Could have just made the R red, right? Yeah.
Like we couldn't have just done something with the color. So I didn't even realize what her name really was until I saw it on this printout because it's
Do we even know if we're
Ma.
saying her first name right?
I don't know.
Is it Mara?
Mara.
I think it's Mara. I do believe it's Mara.
She
I
didn't
believe
even
it- I believe
spell
it
it
was Mara.
legibly. I don't know how to pronounce it.
That is a good point. I mean, sometimes signs and names can get confusing, and a voter will see something and then go, okay, what do we...
Name recognition is just so important
Yes.
to have it not immediately show the way it shows on the signs on the ballot. I think it's a problem for her.
Yeah. Bobby said he read it as Maria. So
Right, yeah, I read that like that for a long time.
Yeah.
Same, yeah.
I actually thought it was as well. So thank
Yeah.
you for...
I'm going to go out.
Well, I'm
on
glad
a-
we did this show.
yes.
I'm going to go
Well,
out on
that
a
clears
limb.
up our spelling ability.
That's right. Troy's dyslexia is rubbing off on everybody, as
I
it
know,
does.
even candidates. I'm going to go.
He read it as Julie, though.
I'm going to go with McGovern.
Took you a second, didn't it?
Cat.
Can we just keep interrupting Troy so he doesn't have a chance to talk?
You guys just
We
go
love
ahead.
you, Troy. Stop.
Feels like it's home again.
It's just like the first show.
Just like the
Remember,
first show.
I was there for the first show.
Actually, you didn't say a word in the first show.
No, I didn't. I was
You were
hedging
like,
my
oh,
bets. I'm like,
You guys,
this doesn't work out.
I got stuck with these guys.
He was speechless. He went, these guys are so bad. If I say anything, I'm part of the team. I don't want to be on the team yet. All right. What do you have, Troy?
Nothing. I'm saying Spiro Agnew was the worst vice president. So,
Steal it from Bobby.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
I can't find favorability ratings on Spiro Agnew.
I promise you in 73 they were really bad.
They're really bad. Representative for Congress, District 6, John Groh and Michael Waltz. I think Waltz wins this going away. Waltz is a great guy. I mean, I've had a chance to talk to him a couple of times, and he's a veteran. He served overseas. He served in I believe, both Iraq and Afghanistan. And I like him a lot. And I think he does a really good job. So,
And I think something that helps is he's on TV all the time. They interview him on TV all the time. So people here who watch your Fox Newses and your Newsmaxes and things like that, which is a lot of people here. Obviously, we're a big Republican county. So I think him just being prominent, through his career is definitely going to help him in this election. Yeah.
Well, I think he wins. I mean, I think he's done a good job, and he's a Volusia County guy, which in that race, if you carry Volusia County, you usually win that one. So
yes, I 100%.
Yeah.
Okay. We get into kind of an interesting one.
go with R.J. Larissa.
Yes. I'm going to take RJ, take Matthew Metz.
I disagree.
Bobby wanted to know. So Jerry James, Tom Leake, David Shore. George T. Hill is the Democrat running, but the real race in the primary, obviously, is Republican, is James, Leake, and Shore. This has got to be one of the more interesting ones when Shore got in the race. I think Leake was the overwhelming favorite. Shore got in very late in the race. But this has been one of the ones that I've received more mailers on this than I used to receive in an entire election cycle.
Yeah.
I mean,
The leaks. Yeah.
The Leak, Shore mailers.
I've got a bone to pick with David Shore and these mailers because he keeps putting on his mailers how he's getting attacked. He's getting attacked because he's going to go to Tallahassee. Well, I did the numbers on what hit Mike's mailbox, and he was not the one getting the negative ads. Tom Leake was the one getting the negative ads, not David Shore. So a little bit of projection. I mean, you put the message out there, I'm getting attacked because I'm going to clean up Tallahassee, and you're not the one getting attacked. I mean, that doesn't read legit to me.
There's I've seen a lot of projection in this election. Election projection.
Prediction, projection, election.
We could bring back conjunction, junction. Just change the words up. Yes. So this race was interesting because you had David Shore jumping in, and when he announced, it's like he was a Trump guy, right? I'm a Trump supporter, and I said if he gets Trump's endorsement, this could be closer than you think it would be for somebody generally entering in late.
And to your credit, I didn't think he was going to get Trump's endorsement.
Yeah.
I was thinking, what is Trump going to do endorsing a St. Johns County race? Trump has jumped in a few races.
But here's the crazy thing. Shore gets Trump's endorsement.
Right.
But the Trump Club endorses
Well,
Leak.
yeah.
And then Trump endorses the Trump Club endorsements.
Well, the Trump Club called in. It just seems so obvious that the Trump Club called in a favor to Trump and said, "Hey, we've got these 3 guys.
Yeah.
We need a public endorsement. It's really going to help them." I mean, it's just very obvious that happened. Trump was not sitting at his desk. Well, Christian Whitehurst, Roy Alamo, Henry Dean, they're great patriots. They are.
You got it in there.
I did. I had to get it in there. All right.
Stop. You're doing great. You're doing amazing. You're doing great. We're going to change the title to Donald Trump sits in for election picks.
Sorry, I've been working on my Trump impression and it's getting good. So I like showing it off, man.
So the thing that bothered me about the David Shore, not only did he jump in late, which seemed like a personal vendetta situation to me, but also his announcement that he was jumping in. He mentioned Trump's name more than he mentioned his own name. Mm-hmm. And almost every mailer has been, I'm Trumpity Trump, Trumpers. I'm Trump's best friend. And it's this super awkward picture of him with Trump. And it's like, talk to me about what you want to do, not like who your friend is and who you got to take a picture with you once.
I'll tell you this. And I was leaning towards Tom Leak in this race. But when Trump actually did the video, talking about David Shore directly, and I don't know if you guys saw it. Did you see it?
No, I didn't.
I didn't see that.
I'll pull it up. But
Did you get that from Rick Scott?
Yeah, I got it directly from
You
Rick.
sure it's not AI?
No, it's 100%, and it just came out, I believe, yesterday.
Wow.
And it is Trump speaking directly about David Shore. He didn't do it with the other 3 that he gave the endorsement to, but I think that one's going to carry some weight.
I wonder if he
might push David over the top.
I wonder if he felt like he had to do that because he did come out so hard with an endorsement of, because his endorsement, when you look at it, was an endorsement of the Trump Club. Mm-hmm. He kind of said, I endorse the Trump Club. They're great. And the guys they pick are great too. Mm-hmm. But, I think it was probably brought to his attention that, hey, Mr. President, there's a guy on that list that you just endorsed, and you actually endorsed his opponent as well. So we got to do a little bit to fix that in St. Johns County. I'm surprised he's got such...
Get me a camera. Get me a phone. We'll fix this in 30 seconds.
And I don't know if he's just sitting around in his spare time just making endorsements for people across the country. I have to imagine it is. It helps. People are trying to ride the Trump wave right now. But I am surprised at the number of times he has spoken about St. Johns County. I did not expect that to happen.
His cameo is really cheap.
Is it really?
I'm just kidding.
I was going to say, wow, I'm about to get a Trump cameo.
Wait a minute. In a cameo sense, was it as good as Home Alone 2?
Oh, where he shows
up. Mike's not on the same page. It's okay.
Cameo is actually, you pay someone to say happy birthday.
It's an app.
At my age, a cameo, you showed up in the movie.
Right, yeah.
He was in there and he talked to Kevin and gave directions to Kevin.
Yeah.
So here's a general comment about this race, because I find this one really interesting, right? David Shore got in late. If David Shore had gotten in earlier, I think David Shore takes St. Johns County. Leak takes Volusia County, and then and Flagler is the battleground, right? Or that parts of it. Mm-hmm. Being in late and then having the trial lawyers go after Leak. There's a lot of people, myself included. I'm not going to vote for the trial lawyers pick, right? I can't do it. I mean, they're a group that is constantly nipping at the heels of business people, and I just don't like it. And the thing that makes me mad about that is, of all the people running for the state races, David Shore is more connected and knows more about St. Johns County and has been in office longer than all of them combined.
That's a good point. That's a solid point.
David Shore has that knowledge, right, of St. Johns County and who not runs things, but who's been elected to things and who's been around.
He's got personal relationships.
He's got personal relationships for that, right? No one else. Right. And I know Kim Kendall has been involved for a long time. Nick Primrose has not been here for a long, right? So you look at some of those, and Sam Greco to the south of us and Darrell Boyer, they don't know St. Johns County at all. David Shore's the only one out of all the ones that could potentially represent our county that actually has that. I think if he'd run on that in St. Johns County, take the negative stuff and run it somewhere else, if he'd run on that, I think he would have gotten hey, I'm your guy that has been in office for this long, and I know the county, and I can help the county get where it needs to get over the state level.
Right.
I do think this is the last volley that will be fired in the Trump DeSantis wars.
All right. I got
really,
a question.
truly do.
All right, Mike, I got a question. Usually you're a detailed person. Look at David Shore on the supervisors of election, and it actually lists his address.
Oh, wow. He's supposed to be protected.
He's supposed to be protected, but the fact that he chose to put his phone number out there is important. But his address is saying Venice, Florida.
Yeah.
That is, that is interesting.
I don't think that's correct.
I saw that.
Yeah.
I did see that a while back.
Yeah. And the other thing is he has his email address, and look at the initials after his name.
JSO.
Yeah. So
SJSO, St. John's.
all right. So picks around the table. Troy Blevins. Who wins this race?
I think this last video. I was yesterday when we were talking about it and stuff like that. I was leaning towards Tom Leake. I think this last video, if people got it the way I got it, and a lot of other people that were on the fence, and they're huge Trump people, I think it pushes them over the top. And I think David Shore might nudge us out. I think he's definitely going to win St. Johns County, and it's what he pulls from the other. But I'll tell you this: don't count out Tony Hill in the general election. I mean, I know it's a tough one to pull off in this area, but he represented the state in the House of Representatives for many, many years, and he knows how to campaign.
What you be talking about, Willis?
Yeah. So
Tony Hill is from the southern end, right? He's from the Volusia area, down on the land, maybe.
Yeah, no, he's actually
Jacksonville.
West. I think it's actually West St. Johns County now.
I honestly think that this race is a +3 or 4. You're going to have such a huge turnout for Trump in this area that Tony Hill in an off election year without Donald Trump on the ballot maybe has a chance. With that, I disagree.
He's a really good campaigner.
Yeah,
is what I'm saying. So in that general election, because the way these guys have created enemies for each other with Leake and David Shore, the other side might be like, screw that guy come general election and jump over just in spite. So, but I got David Shore nearly beating Tom Leake, and it's because of the video that I saw yesterday.
I don't think when we're done with our show tomorrow night, we'll know the outcome of this race.
No.
Yeah, I think this is going to be one of the closest ones that we have. I think there's a lot. I mean, I think in the last election, Jerry James was able to rack up a lot of supporters. There was a lot of support for Jerry James. I think he just barely lost to Travis Hudson here in St. Johns County. He may have even squeaked him out by just a couple of points, honestly.
I think he lost here, but it was
barely.
very
barely,
close.
right?
But I don't think he had the money and the resources to campaign across the rest of the
Right, but I think he had a message that resonated with a whole lot of people. I watched him on you guys' show, and he said a lot of things that I liked when he was on you guys' show. Like I said, Tom Leake has got a ton of name recognition through this whole thing, whether good or bad. I mean, people know his name. He's the name I recognize almost the most on this list. Obviously, David Shore. And the interesting thing that I think plays into this is through early voting, we've talked to Vicky Oakes before, and she said she hopes for around 35% turnout in early and primary voting. We've already had, I think, 15%. So about half of her goal is already covered before this Trump Shore video. So I don't know how much ground Shore can make up with only half of the projected voter base left to go.
And I have a question before you answer. Do you think because of such negative from Tom Leake and David Shore, people are going to be like, this guy's got to be the guy? These other these other two guys are just too terrible if they're going along with it, or they're just frustrated with the candidates. So I'm wondering if Jerry gets some votes from that.
He probably will. I don't know if it's enough to necessarily swing it his way, but honestly, it wouldn't shock me if he pulled out an upset on this one.
Jerry James may play the spoiler that helps Tom Leake. Because I think Jerry James has done a good job in St. Johns County of working over the last 4 years, right, to work his way through this and run for the Senate seat. But I think he's got better name recognition here right? And the message of anti-growth resonates here more than it does in Putnam County or more than it does in Volusia County.
Palm Coast, though, there's a lot of that going on in Palm Coast. There's a lot of people up in arms about it in Palm Coast, too. You look at their Palm Coast government meetings, and it's very similar sentiment coming from the crowd as it is here in St. Johns County. Slow down the growth big time.
David Shore needs to rack up the numbers in St. Johns County. If James takes numbers away from him and it's a close race, James could be the spoiler that keeps Shore from winning that race. Shore needs a huge rack up of numbers in St. Johns County. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Amanda, who you got? Pete, who do you have?
Go ahead, Amanda.
So I am going with Tom Leak. I don't think that Donald Trump, with the conflicting endorsements, I don't think that video came early enough to give it to David Shore, especially with, like I said, it just seemed really petty. David Shore jumping in late, it seemed like a personal vendetta. And that's what I've seen in the mailers and the advertisement. So it doesn't feel like he's running for the right reasons, from my perception. And Donald Trump endorsed Herschel Walker and Dr. Oz. So his endorsement isn't like
Mehmet.
It isn't like a sparkling sterling thing. And he endorsed both of them.
Boy, that cut me to the core. That cut me right to the core. I'm going to go home and cry.
The difference is those two are both new to campaigning.
Mm-hmm.
All right. David Shore on this list might be one of the best campaigners out there.
Yeah, he's definitely got the most successcul campaign experience, without a doubt.
That's the difference I see. And like I said, I think it was close, and I will not, I'll agree with you guys 100%. I don't know if I don't think we're going to know who wins this Republican side tomorrow. I think it's that close. So there is no wrong answer on this one. Even if you throw Jared James in there, it still could happen.
Yeah. I think Tom Leak squeaks it out just because of everything. Just his name has been everywhere. I really think he squeaks this out. But again, man, I wouldn't be surprised if any of those other Republicans won that. That just wouldn't shock me at all.
I think that's going to be a very interesting race. I think Tom Leak wins that race. I hate saying that because I've known David Shore a long time.
Yeah.
But I think it's the anger over the negative mailers that hit Leak in record numbers in St. Johns County. I think that sways it. And
wasn't a lot of that coming before Shore was even in the race, though, too?
You already had people that were, I'm voting for Leak because the lawyers are going after him. You already had that. David entering the race was like, okay, we like David, but I'm still voting for Leak because the lawyers were going after him. So it'll be interesting where that one goes. And I do agree with you guys. It could be you could flip it. That could come back and surprise all of us.
I think this is going to be one of the closest one. This and there's one commissioner race that I think is going to be very close.
So we got to go quick on these next two. Kim Kendall, Nick Primrose.
All right, to me, I'll tell you this. I feel like the people that back Nick Primrose are pretty much in line with the Tom Leak group, but Kim Kendall has been working as hard as any candidate out there. I think she's closed the gap. There was a pretty significant gap between the points. I think she's closed it, and usually the person trending is the person who pulls it out. So this one, I think you see, I wrote 50-50 here on this one.
Flip the coin, give us an answer.
I think, I'm gonna say Kendall with a slight upset because she's trending in the right direction. Okay. So I think Nick's got good people behind him and supporting him. But this one, I met with both candidates, and I think both of them will do a good job for us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. So Kim Kendall's the one that I was leaning towards also. She's the one that I recognize the information from and I've heard the most about. So I think you're right. I think she's trending at the right time.
Yeah, I agree with everything Troy and Amanda said. I think she barely pulls it out.
I think it's going to be a really interesting race because this is almost a Tallahassee race against a local race.
Mm-hmm.
Kim Kendall's been working for this job for a long time. I ran against Kim Kendall in 2012.
Yeah.
Right. And she has worked tirelessly for St. Johns County issues. So, I talked about David Shore. Kim's the next one in line. that knows the people in St. Johns County and has worked with a lot of people in St. Johns County on a lot of different issues, right? And so I think the work that she put in makes the difference. But I'm in the dark on this one a little bit. I'm not in that zone. I got one negative Kim Kendall mailer, which obviously was a mistake because I can't vote in that. So I don't know what's going on other than what I'm hearing anecdotally. I would tell you, I think there's some momentum there, and I do think she's got.
And
a
if
very good opportunity.
if you're in St. Johns County, this is State Road 16 North.
Yeah,
is that portion of St. Johns County.
So all of us are taking the more local person in that race.
Yeah,
and I think Nick Primrose is a nice guy. I do that, but,
I agree.
But I think he's more associated with Tallahassee than he is with us, and I don't mean that as a dig. You know, I honestly, if he got elected, he might have better Tallahassee connections than Kim, but I don't know that he knows what we want in St. Johns County.
And this is, to me, if you look at resumes side by side, Nick Primrose wins. He worked for Rick Scott. He worked for DeSantis. If you look at the resumes, if you talk about working and you're talking, this is a 12-year campaign for Kim.
14.
Yeah. 14?
She would have started campaigning in 2010.
Okay.
14 years.
Yeah.
Now, she didn't run in every single race.
Yeah.
But I mean, she's worked very hard at keeping herself in the public and working on different things.
And like I said, I believe both of these candidates, if they become your representative, are going to be there for you. I enjoy both meetings with both candidates.
So do you think Kendall wins in St. Johns County and Primrose has a chance to?
St. Johns County.
Oh, this one's.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
St. Johns
Okay.
County.
Yeah.
Which is what I
Okay.
think gives her the
bleeds in.
advantage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right.
I don't think it bleeds in. I mean, I think this is, I know, I bet knocking on doors, and I know Nick was out knocking on doors, but I bet Kim Kendall outworked him 3-1.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Just knowing her work ethic and her drive to.
All right. Daryl Boyer, Sam Greco.
I think this is as far as the points and stuff like that, I think Sam Greco wins this one.
Yeah.
I got Greco in this one.
Yeah,
as well.
I agree.
I agree. I can't stop seeing Sam Greco's face on my TV, looking like he's 13 years old, but still getting the name recognition out there.
Doogie Howser representing. I'm going to tell you, his wife knocked on my door this weekend.
Yeah.
Right. And I had a nice conversation with her. I just think he's worked harder. He's had the money. Generally, it's the person with the money when it kind of comes down to that. Not always. But in politics, if you look at who raised the most money, then generally that's the one. I just don't think Boyer's been able to get his message out as much. So I'm leaning towards Greco.
Yeah, I haven't seen or heard anything from Boyer at all.
Amanda?
I've seen some billboards, and that's it.
Okay.
Amanda, you?
I was Sam Greco. I think Mike got two mailers pro Boyer.
Yes.
And 1 or 2 negatives. I'll have to pull it up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it was about 4.
Yeah, it was 2 negative, 1 positive, and then there was 1 positive Greco, negative Boyer. So,
and see, these 2 races are probably the most important 2 races to us in Tallahassee.
Mm-hmm.
These are who's represented us in Tallahassee, where we did very well with Cindy Stevenson and Paul Renner last year, along with Travis on the Senate side, of getting money back to Tallahassee. But we lost 3 people in senior positions that term limited out.
We are.
So the pressure on whoever wins that Greco race and the Kendall Primrose race. And Primrose, I don't know if you met Nick. He's looked equally as young as Sam.
Yeah.
So it is like Doogie Howser.
My comment is
both brilliant guys.
All of them. the only guy that we could send from St. Johns County that has experience over there, that has some gravitas or some ability, is Leak.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Everybody else that we send would be new over there, and it takes a while to learn a system. Even David Shore, right, who knows more about St. Johns County than the rest of them, and Kim, it's going to take them a while to learn the system. And so that's a 2 to 4 year learning curve. St. Johns County is very fortunate we got what we got the last few years with Renner and Hudson and Cindy Stevenson.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, Cindy. And I can tell you, David's been a boss the last 16 years of his career.
Yep.
He's going to go over there being low man on the totem pole.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be a challenge for him. Leak was in the House for 8 years.
Yep.
And he's going to know and understand the system. And he's got friends on that side. He's got friends on the Senate side. So I agree with you. There is a learning curve, and Leak, out of every candidate we've talked about, is the one who's understands that curve.
Yeah.
How did we go back 2 races?
Huh?
Did I miss something? How did we go back in 2 races?
Just representation that we lost.
Oh, you're talking about the overall. Okay, yeah, I got you.
What we lost and how important these 3 are.
Nostalgia. Any second now, he's going to go back to the first show.
Can I show you my Biden invitation?
Spot on.
All right. So we're going to skip down several races because most of these have been decided. Denver Cook Brandon Patty is one of the 2 constitutional officers that's still up. Eddie Creamer, Jennifer Raven, and Vicky Oakes have all won unopposed. So Denver Cook,
I
Brandon
voted for all
Patty.
3 of them.
I did too. Denver Cook, Brandon Patty.
This one, I think I'm going to stick with the Patriot. I'm going to go with Brandon Patty.
Amanda?
Yeah, Brandon Patty is the only one I've seen do any advertisement.
And here's something that bothers me, and it bothers me on some of the other ones too. You can choose to whether or not to have your phone number in there. Denver Cook chose to not have his phone number in there. And that,
well, it looks like he's protected, and they gave him the protected status that Shore probably should have had and was expecting on this card.
Yeah. So, I mean,
and this is what we're looking at is right off the Supervisor of Elections website.
Right,
under
right.
qualified candidates. It just pulled the easiest one to do. Okay, I think Brandon Patty wins as well, just the name recognition.
The only thing that I think hurts Brandon is he's not here right now to campaign. I think he's done a good job. I think there's some, his team that he put together seems to be holding everything steady. But branding, I don't want somebody to lose their job because they're serving.
They're deployed.
My country,
Yeah.
We got,
and the ballot will say incumbent, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think that helps them.
Man, we might have to go over. We don't have enough time.
So we have 4 of the most heated races towards the end.
Yes.
We're gonna run the sheriff's race next. Rob Hardwick, Jim Priester, and Terry Sherman is a write-in. Both candidates came on and talked with us last week. I thought it was great. We had views that reminded me of what a bad morning show views look like on that show. I mean, I was very happy with those views. Just thought I'd give you a little bump there, Peter.
Okay, thanks.
Yes.
Pandering.
Yes. I'm very good at it.
Oh, see, I didn't even take that as a hit. I thought you were talking about the Today Show because I know our morning show's awesome.
So that's what I was saying. Our numbers slightly approached. They were like a bad morning show.
Yeah.
My numbers were like a bad morning.
You didn't get near the Stoidum, but I mean, you did get near the Today Show.
But Davey's heartbroken.
The Today Show is still on?
Exactly.
Look, I know more people are watching us than CNN, so I feel good about that.
That's always a good feeling. Yeah.
Because they got a lot more money in marketing and in that internet thing.
Yeah.
All right. So, Troy, you know both guys. You want to start?
I think Rob just has to me, he's done a good job, and I believe he's earned the right to continue being the sheriff. Jim Priester is been a friend for 30 plus years, good guy. But I don't think Rob's done anything to lose his job.
Yeah. And in fact, I think from a PR standpoint, the sheriff's office is in a much better place than it was when Rob Hardwick was running the first time. I mean, I think that's one of the first things that Hardwick had to do when he got into office was kind of work on changing the image of the St. Johns County Sheriff's Office. Because, I think whether you like it or not, there was a dark cloud over the sheriff's office before he took office. And it didn't, it wasn't as much of a community oriented feel as it is now. I think so. I think Rob Hardwick probably takes this pretty easily with, I think, well over 60% of the vote. Yeah.
I was kind of along the same train of thought that you had because I'm new to St. Johns County. I've only lived here 20 years. So I was thinking back to...
Go home, Amanda!
That billboard was for you, Amanda!
Always Floridian, but I'm new to St. Johns County. So I was thinking back to what I would hear, people talking about the police department when... in all of my few years living here. And all I heard in the first decade and a half was that it was good old boys. Like, be careful dating a cop because like they might not treat you so well and nothing's going to happen to them and you're not going to be able to report it. Like I heard all the time being a female that like it could be dangerous because like nothing's going to happen to a cop if he beats you or whatever. So like that was what I was hearing when I moved here. And that is not the sense that I get the reputation of the sheriff's department is now.
Yeah.
And so I think that is, that speaks highly of Rob Hardwick's leadership. And I think that, like Troy said, he hasn't done anything to lose his job. And it's kind of weird to me that he's having to fight for it so hard with how well he's done, in my opinion.
Well, and I'm going to take the other side of that. I'm appreciative, and I think Rob probably going to punch me for this, but I'm appreciative of someone running, and it actually lets him get his message out about this is what I have done. And I think that is an important thing. And I'm appreciative Jim stepped up because it's not easy to run. I mean, Mike, you know this.
It's not an easy thing to do, and I was glad to have him on. I just met Jim. I've got a family that are big supporters of Jim. I've known Rob my entire life, and I do think this has been a good race for Rob. I think if it was just a layup, I don't think that's good. I think you need to work if you're in politics, and you need to have some tough races. And I know this one has gotten a little ugly, and that's unfortunate because I think both guys could benefit from it not being an ugly race, right? It didn't have to be, but I think Hardwick takes it. I think Hardwick takes it with more than 60% of the vote. But the fact that he's having to work so hard this first go around, typically constitutional officers, they stay there for a long time if they can get through the first election cycle after they're elected, right? It's not the one winning, it's the next one, because that's the one where you have all the turnover, right? I say this all the time. He came into an agency that had a leader for 16 years. It didn't matter what he changed. Some people were not going to like it because it had been ingrained in the system for 16 years. So that's just management, right? That's just the way things roll. Some people like it, some people don't. You say, well, it's wrong, it's right.
Yeah. It's a change of leadership.
A change of place. All right.
And I saw Jim on you guys' show. I watched that whole show, and I thought he did great on the show. Yep. I thought it was a great conversation. That's the only exposure that I've had to Jim. And I think this is another one of these races where, yes, I think it's going to be a runaway, but no matter who took this job, I think we'd be in good hands. I think we'd be in fine hands.
Yep. I agree. All right. Now, probably the most consensus, and we're going into overtime.
Yeah.
So we can do these individually, or we can do these as a group because they're running as a group, both sides, right?
Yeah,
which I would not have advised anybody to do. Run your own race. Don't. I mean, even the signs go up together.
Yeah,
right? I mean, the signs are up together.
Troy brought up a great point on the morning show when we had Commissioner Alamo on, and appreciative that he came on to talk to us. And Troy made a great point that if people see that sign and they don't like one of those guys on there, if they see that sign and they say, you know what, I am not a fan of Henry Dean, and he's the same guy as Roy Alamo, and he's the same guy as Christian Whitehurst, I'm not voting for any of them.
I think it hurt him. And I mean, they are three completely, I know all three of them. I would consider all three of them friends. And I think there are three completely different individuals.
Yep.
And I don't think that helped. And even with the ands running together, I don't like that either. So it just run on your own, and if your own isn't good enough, then you shouldn't be in there. So that's that might come off a little bit hard, just because we're not doing school district, right? So we had Anthony Coleman, and that one will be decided tomorrow. Because it's only the two. The one with the 4, unless there's a 50% vote, and that's with Lily B. Bristow, Bethany
If we get
Hilbert,
through the discussion
and Lynn
about
Strong.
county commission, we can get to that one.
Well, I'm just covering it because we're not going to get to that point. Because
we are now.
I got time. I'm hanging out,
you
man.
got someplace to be?
Okay. All right.
I stay if they stay.
So here's my take. I understand people are upset by growth in St. Johns County. And I'm in the construction industry. We do not do production housing. I don't do subdivisions. I don't do that stuff, right? It's not what we do. We do one-time builds. We do commercial stuff. We do historic renovation. That's our wheelhouse, right? when people get blamed for growth coming off of COVID, when this was a free state and people were welcomed here, and then the people that are bitching about the growth are mostly people that have been here for a shorter period of time. As a longtime local, my entire life, I think that's bullshit, right? I'm sorry. I just think it's BS. We have a very well-run county. It was so well-run, you moved here, right? You moved here. And the people that were elected officials when you moved here are the ones that voted for the subdivisions that you're now pissed off about.
Yeah.
And so I kind of, I look
The
at
ones
this.
that they're living in.
The ones that you're living in, right?
Yeah.
We had trees where your house was before you were here.
Yeah.
And you're complaining about the growth.
Here's the telling to kind of add to your point right there. If we go straight to Henry Dean's, the race he's in with Ann Taylor, we're not. Merrill is non-party. John Higbee's really not a factor. But look at the area code beside the candidate.
Yeah.
Sorry, I can't vote for my local representative that doesn't have a 904 area code. You know what that tells me? That tells me you haven't been here long enough.
Not even a 30. What's the new one? Whatever the new area code.
Yeah, even with that one just came in.
It's a fake area code.
That one just came in last year. So even if you got that one,
and it's not even that one. Yeah.
And then there's other ones, and I don't understand why people didn't put their phone number in there. You say you're going to work for the people, but you don't put your damn phone number in there. I'm sorry. I got a problem with that. If you're gonna sign up for the job, sign up for the job full handle.
I think both of those are very legitimate comments, right? In both of those cases, I think that if there's low turnout, Vicky has said 30% to Troy today in a conversation right before the show. Vicky Oakes, 30%. I think if it's less than 30%, the angry people are showing up, and I think if it's less than a 30% turnout, that is bad news for Dean and Alamo, and for Whitehurst.
Yeah. For the incumbents.
If it's over 30, if it's closer to that 35 that you were saying, and it's a huge day of turnout, which is typically what happens in St. Johns County, I think that's good for a lot of the incumbents because you just can have a lot of regular old people showing up. I do think, in my pick, this is probably good or bad. I got Whitehurst in the first race. I think Christian, I don't have anything against Christian. Christian voted against some stuff that you and I brought before the county commission, right? But I don't have anything against him in that sense, and I don't think Christian is a huge developer proponent in that sense. So I don't have that issue, and I want somebody who's been in the community a while to run the community. That when new people move in, learn a community before you decide to run for the community.
Well, and I'll tell you, I have Christian nudging out all the hate mail and stuff like that, and it's because I think Kristen has the backing of the Creeks Athletic Association, which is the largest athletic association in the state of Florida. And if he wins those soccer moms, then he wins. So I got Kristen just barely nudging out, but I would love to have seen the area code of Anne-Marie Evans and what it is.
813. Oh no, I'm sorry, I'm reading the one below it. And I understand your point there, Troy, about the phone numbers, but I mean, let's be honest, 99% of voters are never going to see this list right here. They're not going to see the phone number, so they're not going to.
Super voters might.
Super voters might, yeah, sure.
If I was campaigning against Ann Taylor, I would have put her phone number in there, and I would have put where it's from.
Yeah, right.
And that would have been, right, it would have been, here's the area code, I would have blanked out the rest of it, and I would have said, she hasn't left her old area code. And that's what I would have said.
She's still a resident there, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And yeah, I agree with you, Troy, that I think Christian Whitehurst really barely squeaks this out. I think this is going to be a very, very close race, but I do agree with you that Christian Whitehurst probably takes this one. And are we doing the other ones right now, or are we not?
Well, let's get Amanda.
Yeah.
Who do you have in this race?
All right. So to Troy's point of grouping yourself with other candidates is a risky move. So Heather Harley Davidson, I had an exchange with her on one of the chats, and it's because she posted in the chat, vote female down the ballot. And I was like, I'm out. That's it. If you're talking to me about body parts and not ideas, I'm not voting for you. You clearly don't have ideas if all you want me to see is your gender. So I'm out on that chick, and she hitched her wagon to the Anns, and so I'm out on them too. Like,
Oh, wow.
If they're linking arms together and it's you're a chick, I'm a chick, vote for me. Sorry, we ain't going potty together, lady. No, I'm not voting for you. Talk to me about ideas.
Wow.
This
That's
isn't
from
it.
the only woman on the network.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
so you know.
I'm allowed. So I'm taking
in San
Christian in this
Francisco,
also.
we might be.
All right.
But
Yeah, I think that's a great. I think that's a very solid point.
And Keely threw something out there. She said something about Christians speaking up on tax increases. But here's the representation I'm going to give these guys credit, because you and I both blasted all three of them for it. They put it on the ballot for us to vote on it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they voted on. They didn't do the tax increase. They did not increase our ad valorem taxes. And you and I, when we had that conversation, every time it comes up, it's like, yeah, you want to put it on the ballot, see how it works out. It never works out.
Yeah.
So
I don't want them to put it on the ballot.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand your reasoning,
Mhm.
but as a longtime St. Johns County resident, damn it, we have voted down every single tax increase except for the one on the school board.
Yeah.
Every single one.
And I
has
think-
been
and
voted
they
down.
defined that one, so we can support it.
Every single one
I
except the
tried
school.
to vote that one down.
And I think, honestly, Christian Whitehurst would have run away with this race more if he wasn't the number one cheerleader for people voting for. I mean, he
Yeah, I
was
think that-
really,
I think that hurts all
really
three.
out there making a tour of telling people they should be voting for this.
And a lot of the stuff, and if we dug through here, they would talk about Silverleaf and they would talk about different developments. Those were already in place before any of these guys got in.
Mhm.
At least give me the facts. And
But that's-
property rights come into play in developments. It's smart development. And sticking with that, Henry Dean is the only one of anyone on this page that I'm looking at that has focused on preservation over trying to stop a developer. You can't really stop it. You can tax them up and tax them up on developers, but they're still coming. We live in paradise. So the preservation to me is a big factor.
You know what the most un-American thing is?
What's that?
You're not allowed to move here.
Yeah.
That's the most un-American thing. You're not allowed to move here. It's un-American.
I know.
Right? I'm sorry. That's why we have a country where you can pick up and move and have economic opportunity. You move to the locations that have better economic opportunity.
Yeah.
That's the way America has been built. That's the way America's been run. That's why people are leaving. I'd love to know why the Ends left the places they left to come here. I'm sure it's because they weren't doing well or they didn't like this, whatever it is.
Thanks to Facebook chat rooms and comment sections, I know they left because they were liberal hellholes and they had to get out. And now they just want to save Florida so it stays the way it was when they moved here.
Well, then let's
15
keep
seconds
electing
ago.
the same people that were running it when you moved here. I'm the worst guy on this because I hate when somebody shows up and then a year later or 2 years later, they're running to tell me how I'm supposed to live, right? I just don't. I can't get that. And we have the ability to move. You have the ability to do all that stuff. So I'm there.
Well, if you want to preserve, then rather than demonize people that are doing what they want with the property that they purchased, that they're going through the legal channels to get approval for, then create a trust of your neighbors and buy the trees, buy the pastures
Amen,
when they
sister.
go up for sale.
Amen, sister.
You can't force someone not to sell their property, and you can't force someone not to do what is legal to do with their property. So if you want the pasture land to stay there, then create a trust, buy it yourself, preserve it.
Yeah.
Right.
I looked
Boom.
up 408 area code. You tell me if you want to vote for that.
Oh yeah, she's from the Pacific Northwest.
Okay.
No, 408 Santa Clara, California.
So
One of them's from the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, that's the other end. The one that didn't put her phone number in.
Henry Dean, John Higby, and Ann Taylor.
Are we skipping over 3? Or are we
I'm
gonna...
coming back to
okay.
that one,
All
'cause I
right.
think
Yeah,
that one's a little different.
Okay. I think I think Henry Dean is safe by a mile here. I think Henry Dean takes this one easily.
I can tell you, there was 50% undecided a month ago, with 20% firmly in Henry Dean and 30% on the other side. I believe what happened, and now that trend is moving. Like I said with the Kim Kendall, that trend is moving. This one is moving even faster. So I'm going to do Henry Dean as a closer, and I'm going to say I don't think it's a landslide. I think it's going to be about 5 points.
I think there's a lot of people that are mad about growth. I said my feelings on it, but I've talked to a lot of reasonable voters
Yes.
that have told me I'm sick of the growth. right? And I've had the same discussion with them in a very fun way that I've had here tonight. I've expressed the same opinions, but they're just like, I'm tired of it.
And it's not just growth. I mean, people kind of use that blanket term growth. It's infrastructure. It's putting the right infrastructure in place. And that seems to be,
the whole nine.
yes, traffic, that seems to be a big concern. That's what, I think that's the core of what a lot of people are saying when they say we're against growth, is they're against people not helping put the infrastructure in place.
All right. Who do you have? Henry Dean, Ann Taylor. You got Henry Dean.
I got Henry Dean.
Yeah, I think Henry Dean,
He's
yeah.
got Henry Dean winning.
Yeah,
pretty
I've
easily.
got Henry Dean also. I saw some weird negative stuff about Henry Dean, but I think that was like a total Hail Mary to try and tie him to stuff that he wasn't tied to. But other than that, I think that he's
I can
solid.
tell you the first commercial that came out of Henry Dean, it was a terrible commercial. The second one that came out was much, much better. The first commercial was horrible lighting. I can tell you, you know, with the age being a factor.
Yeah.
With the general election and the presidential stuff and it being a factor, the way they lit Henry's a very healthy man, and it made him look. I was like, come on, guys.
He had enough money to get a better production crew. Yeah, he really did. Yeah.
Do the man better than that.
Yeah.
So they did the CNN like Joe
Rogan,
Rogan.
gray skin, yeah, shadows, yeah.
I would tell you that it makes a lot of difference with the cameras. Like, last week I was very orange. This week I look normal.
No,
Thank you, Pete.
Put on a ball cap, Captain America.
I did. All right. So everybody's there. Here, Roy Alamo, Heather Harley Davidson, Michael McDonald, Clay Murphy.
We know who I'm not voting for.
Okay. So Amanda, let's start with you. This was your emotional one. Where are you going?
Yeah. Sorry, Heather, you blew that. Well, I'm thinking. So Roy Alamo and Clay Murphy are the ones that I've seen the most from.
Mm-hmm.
And we met both of them. They both came on the show. I think that Roy Alamo's got it.
I think this is the only one where there's a strong potential for the incumbent to flip on the county commission. I think of the county commission races, this one will likely be the closest, and it would not shock me at all. And Troy, you've made some comments about the northern part of the county, but boy, have I seen for a long time just swaths of Clay Murphy signs.
Yeah,
The Clay Murphy signs are blanketing this county. I mean, they really are. The Roy Alamo's got a lot of advantage in being the incumbent and being appointed by DeSantis. I think that still carries a little bit away, not as much as it did when we were just getting over the time we don't speak about.
2022.
Right.
2022.
Right. That was the peak of Ron DeSantis. But boy, it would not shock me in the least bit if Clay Murphy took this by 3 to 5 points.
Here's where I'm at.
So
with
you
this
got
one.
Clay.
Yeah. I don't. Geez.
Oh, I love this thing.
This is tough, man.
Who do you
This
want?
is tough. I know. I know.
I like them both.
Beep.
Right. I like them both.
Yeah.
Can you hear
Right.
Pete backing up right there?
No, this is
got a
not.
point?
This is not backing up. I'm just really having a hard time deciding who I think will win.
Yeah.
You know, we're talking about who we think will win, not who we like, not who we're voting for,
Yeah.
who we think will win.
Yep.
I'm having a hard time with this one, man. My gut tells me Clay ekes this out just a little bit.
Here's what makes this race so interesting. So normally, if you have 4 people in a race with an incumbent, the other 3 drag away and separate the anti-incumbent race.
Mhm.
All right.
I
so
know.
that puts
I'm aware. That's what telling me now.
that puts Roy. I told you then, and you didn't listen to me then, and now 14
Mike
years
Davis
later,
didn't
12
listen
years
to you?
later,
Wow.
either time. But that puts Roy in an advantage because of that split.
Mhm.
The difference is Michael McDonald is really getting that anti-incumbent vote in some of those things. So that'll pull away from Roy quite a bit from his, and it might give Clay just enough room. Michael actually might do a reverse spoiler in this situation. Usually those non-incumbents battle it out for those votes, but I think Michael McDonald actually might pull enough votes away to let Clay slide by. I don't think he's going to be a factor in it,
Yeah.
But I think he's going to pull enough votes to be the deciding factor. Which candidate did he pull votes away from? Is the other one's going to win? So,
Right, so
I haven't picked yet.
I was going to ask you where you're going. This is all of us are in this situation, but I think you're wrong on that. I think McDonald pulls away from Clay Murphy
More
because of the anti-incumbent, and this is going to be a very interesting. Who you got?
I'm honestly, I believe this is another one that's going to be a Paul Waldron, Jerry Cameron situation.
7 votes.
7 votes. 7 votes. I believe this is one you're going to look around your family and go, yeah, we got him. You know, and
we got him across the finish line, or we kept him from getting across the finish line.
Both really good guys. I'm gonna go to Clay. You know, because just I see his campaign. He's worked really hard. Roy's worked really hard too, but
Sorry, y'all.
I think Clay's going to nudge. I think it's going to be, less than 100 votes between the two of them.
That wouldn't surprise me at all. Yeah.
Amanda,
I already gave mine, didn't I?
who'd you pick?
Yeah, I started. I said Roy Lamo.
Roy Lamb.
Roy.
Okay,
Yep.
sorry.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So here's the thing for me, and we've all talked about this. I've known Roy for a long time. My wife taught Roy in 4th grade.
I worked with Roy at one of my first jobs. Yeah.
Really nice guy.
Yeah, man.
And everything that we have gone to him on the board for Homeless Advocate, he's been right there. He stood up for us. He's helped that charity, and it's a much needed charity here in the community. And I think he's done a great job. I think Clay Murphy's a great business person. I think he's a great person too, right? I think both of them would be really good on the board.
Yeah.
And I like both of them on the board, right? For different reasons. I think Clay is that outside voice that if he got on the board, I think would be, the board needs that, but it's an outside business person voice. Krista, Keating Joseph is an outside voice, but she's not, in my opinion, a business person outside voice. Right. And so I there's part of me that would like to see that, but I also recognize that Roy's done a really good job. I think this one is really interesting. DeSantis's backing may carry Roy across there. The additional people running may help Roy across that. But I will say this, Clay's run a very strong race.
Yeah, he has, man.
He's worked his tail off and he's run a strong race. If I got to pick, I'm picking Roy just simply because I think the other 3, right, or the other 2 in there are going to take just enough. If you add up those votes, and Clay Murphy would have won if those 2 people weren't in and it was a head-to-head race, that's what I think this is going to end up. Now, this is me and my history talking, right? Because I've been in these races against incumbents. It's difficult to beat an incumbent. It's really difficult to beat them when there's 4 people in the race. Because you're fighting for that anti-incumbent vote.
The more people in the race, it pushes it. It pushes it towards the incumbent.
All right.
So we are split on this one.
Yeah.
We're split on this one, and we're split on the Shore leak race.
Yeah.
Troy taking Shore and the rest. So basically, none of the other things count. We're either going to win or lose those as a whole. But
there's always a surprise.
Yes, there always is.
There's always a surprise.
Yeah, man.
Anybody not have Tony Coleman?
No. I have Tony.
Yeah, Tony's got this.
Tony forever.
Yeah.
Amanda, I'm giving you Tony Coleman.
He doesn't have his phone number on there. I'm just saying.
He again,
Protected law enforcement.
He is former law enforcement again. And
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why I think the average person that wouldn't affect, even if they did see this, because I don't know who's law enforcement and who isn't, and so I don't know who's holding back their number.
I'll tell you this: to me, if you're going to be in this position, and I'm putting the sheriff. If sheriff doesn't have his on there either, you're going to be in this position. I know you're in law enforcement and some of those other things. Phone number. I wouldn't put my address necessarily in that situation, but phone number is a phone number.
Right.
My question is there anyone in St. Johns County that doesn't have Rob Hardwick's phone number, though? I mean, he gives it to everybody.
Last race, just because we don't have that many. School Board District 5. Lily B. Bristow, who let us all know she was Democrat the other day. Bethany Hilbert, Lynn Strawn, and Linda Thompson. So that's the last one. Amanda?
So
as a homeschooler, how do you feel about voting for this?
Shut the whole thing down. I'm just kidding. I mean, that's why I voted against the school tax. It's like I pay all my taxes to the school and I don't get anything anyway. So I'm between Linda Thompson and Bethany Hilbert. I'm leaning towards Linda Thompson on this one.
Okay. Troy?
All right. This one, two people are going to advance because I don't think either one of them is going to have 50%.
I agree with that.
Okay, so I think two people that are going to advance. I think Linda's going to have the lead on Bethany. But I think Bethany, if she steps on the accelerator, she could pass Linda in the general election.
So you're taking Linda.
I'm taking those two to move on, and I'm taking Linda to be percentagely ahead of Bethany. I think Bethany might take it in the general election because I don't think she's really had to step on the accelerator. She's got to finish in the top two on this.
Pete?
I'm going very similar to Troy's answer. Yeah. I see it happening very much the same.
On a lot of doors, and I know Bethany's currently employed, so she doesn't have as much time to do it. But I think if these two advance, I think you'll see an acceleration in that campaign also.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
All right. So here's my prediction. I think Bethany Hilbert takes the majority of this.
Okay.
But I think that what's going to propel, or the issue is going to be that's going to come back, is the same thing we had with Collins whenever you had the late Ron DeSantis endorsement and propelled her to the school board. If Linda Thompson, who's running more as a conservative, gets that late endorsement in the general election, I think that propels her. But I think that vote, that conservative vote gets split up in this one. And I think Bethany's doing the job to do the job. I don't think she's bringing, we interviewed her. I didn't get a whiff or a hint of what party she was in when we interviewed her.
Right. Yeah.
And credit to her for that and running a nonpartisan race and doing that. The other thing is, I wouldn't be surprised if Lily B gets all the Democrat votes and ends up being the second person in the list. I
don't see that happening.
I'm just saying. You're going to split. Three people are going to split.
Are you saying Trump's taking New York again? Because I think that's right there with that bet.
I had that when Biden was running, but I'm not sure. I'm glad I didn't take the bet because Biden is out. I had a shot at it again.
And
all right.
The difference between Bethany and Linda, Linda's coming at it more from an administrator. She was a principal, and Bethany's coming at it with a teacher's heart and a mom's heart. I think. I'm obviously closer to Bethany than I am Linda, even though Linda's in our Rotary. So I think this is going to be a really, really good race in November, and I think it's going to be between the two of them.
And I commented because I got all of this.
Yeah.
You sent it to me and you asked. So, that was a lot of mailers this year. Look, again, our comments are just about how we think races are going to flush out. The candidates, thank you for running. Thank you for putting yourself out there. It is not easy to do. You get a lot of criticism. You've got to raise money. You got to do all those other things. So wish you best of luck tomorrow. Those that we picked and those that we didn't, it was not a personal thing. It was just kind of us looking and reading the tea leaves. And
go vote.
We've been right before and we've been wrong before.
Well, and we're all going to be right and wrong on some of these because we didn't agree on everything.
Exactly right. I'm
going to be wrong on a lot of them.
You were the barometer for not to pick 2 years ago. If Amanda picks someone, it's like, no, don't pick that person. People close their campaigns when Amanda picked them the night before.
It's like the cover of Sports Illustrated, or what's the cover that
Madden.
Yeah.
Oh, did you hear? They're doing a Madden movie.
No.
And Nick Cage is supposed to be Madden, and I'm like, what? Does he want a broken leg? Like, the Madden curse is going to go to the movie, too.
Yeah.
It was nice knowing Nick.
That's an interesting choice to play John Madden.
Yeah. All right. Thank you all. There will be a phenomenal morning show on tomorrow. There'll be a middle of the day show. What's that thing called again?
The show that's on in the afternoon.
The show that's on in the afternoon. Such a confusing title.
If you ever wonder what the names of my shows are, just think of the laziest name you could possibly name.
Like St. Augustine this evening.
There you go.
But very complicated acronyms.
Very complicated. And they sound like diseases.
Yes.
My show sounds like a bollocks. Definitely sounds like a disease.
Yeah.
Oh, he's got the bollocks.
Yeah.
He's got the bollocks.
And Davey will be here tomorrow night on our show on St. Augustine this evening. And then Pete will be back so we can do the read of Vicky Oakes. Always a fun show to do. We kind of get that. Are you coming back?
Yeah, I'll be back.
All right.
I'll be in.
We got a third wheel.
There we go.
Okay.
That's usual. Now, that's one thing we've been doing since the beginning is calling the elections. We've been doing this for a long time, guys.
I felt like I I was being left out. So I was like, yes, I'm coming in.
Are we doing drinking party rules?
I don't know if we're going to do that or not. We'll look at that and see tomorrow. The thing that's interesting for me is I talked about Pappy Schilling and Al Brennan. Someday some kid's going to be running whatever, Lord knows what the format will be. Remember when Melfi and Troy Blevins and Mike Davis and Amanda used to do that show?
Troy.
Yes. All right, you guys have a great night. Go vote if you haven't voted, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.